One piece that has been added to this relief corps for the Cardinals that has looked amazing is Andre Granillo. I have not minced words about how I feel about Andre as a person, how I feel about him as a pitcher on this show, and he's tremendous in both aspects. To be able to come in and do what he did today, get the win in game one, and to get the save in game two, he's the second player in baseball history to get his first career save and his first career win on the same day. I mean, that's unbelievable. And to be able to do it in extra innings, protecting a 2-run lead, you have the middle part of the order coming up for the White Sox. All the pressure is on you as a young reliever who has yet to give up a run. I can't say enough about how well he's pitched. And at some point, you've got to make the decision. Let's throw him into the fire. Let's see what he can do with some leverage opportunities. Today, you really had no choice. You had to put him in. Everybody else was tired. Guys couldn't go. I think Granillo earned his stripes a little bit as one of the guys you can trust to take the ball in a high-risk scenario.
And you know what? To that point, there's been a lot of conversations about getting young players chances and the inability to get young players chances. Well, you just got a young player a chance, a guy who's proven himself in the minors, and he's gotten the chance, and now he's proven it, and you need to continue to give him those chances. And this is one thing the Cardinals, I don't think they're going to blow this one, mainly because their hand has been forced. But that's almost the bad side of this discussion, which is it's getting a little annoying that it feels like their hand has to be forced to make these kind of decisions, and it's still not a proactive thing. That's a conversation that I've been having over the last 2 years with Brooke and Randy, working with them on different shows. It's just the Cardinals have become reactive and not proactive, and that's what mediocre and that's what the mediocre teams in leagues across sports do. They react to things, they don't plan for things. And I love what Granillo's done, but the fact that he wasn't here until they had to make the move, and he wasn't put into a leverage situation until they had to, I think highlights the issues they're having with finding ways to get other players in similar situations.
Right, and you've seen the emergence of Riley O'Brien. He's pitched very well since being returned to the Cardinals and recalled back to the Major League team. Granillo is one of those players that has strikeout stuff. I know he got his first career strikeout to close out the game, but you look at his minor league numbers, he's a swing and miss pitcher. He gets the ball on the ground, he's a swing and miss pitcher. You see the comment here from Bad Mike, the bullpen blew the win for McGreevy. Yes, it might be an oversimplification. I think McGreevy probably could have gone deeper in that game, but it's 6-1, 5 innings. He did his job, and I don't mind the decision to go to your bullpen and trust a guy to eat up 2 innings. They did that. Things started to unravel a little bit. A couple of plays didn't go your way, an infield hit. Then you just couldn't find the strike zone with Leahy. It was a game that the Cardinals in some ways looked like they were playing not to lose. And I think that they were more concerned about the upcoming stretch of games at home, rightfully so. All of them are within the NL Central with the Reds and the Cubs coming up, that you didn't really have a choice. You need to save some of your arms to play in those games, or else things could be a little bit more problematic. You control your own destiny this week at Busch Stadium. This is a huge opportunity to gain some ground. And if you don't play your cards right, things aren't going to go well.
Yeah, and I respect a team that's again, like I just said, I want them to have a plan. I want them to be thinking ahead of time. And that's why today's decision-making was a little bit odd, because I don't think they were able to successfully do that. And part of that's because players don't execute. And that's something we always have to be aware of, is drawing the line between a coach making a mistake and not having a plan, and players failing to execute. And, a coach can't have, plan D, C, F, G, and, how many backups do you expect them to have? So that was also problematic. And one of the reasons they were having that issue, to Nick Jensen's point, especially in that second game, a lot of pass balls. Pages was really struggling. That was something that conversation kind of really hit. The rubber kind of met the road, because we've all been talking about Pedro Pages, and the pitchers have been talking about how solid he is. And yes, he's been a boon to the lineup. But when he has a bad game behind the plate, it is outsized, and it really shows how much of a struggle that can be. And the numbers are real. Ivan Herrera has not thrown out a Steeler this year, and last year his numbers fell off a cliff. And so I'm not sure anything's going to change, but I do think it shows how thin things actually are, despite having a lot of players with a C next to their name on the roster.
Yeah, and you think about Ivan Herrera, a lot of the fans saying they need to get him in the lab, learning to catch during this offseason. My thought process on this is, If you do that, you're probably going to take a hit on him offensively. And I don't think that that's worth it. I don't think that that's worth it. That's just my opinion. If you get a 300-plus level producer with maybe a stronger lineup next year, who knows? He could be a 30 home run, 100 RBI guy. And I very much believe that. But before we get into our next point, a quick reminder that the Cards Central postgame show is brought to you by Hot Shots, St. Louis's home for all the games all the time since 1990. Find yours at hotshotsnet.com. And keep hammering the likes. Make sure that you guys get involved in the conversation. Like, comment, subscribe. Give us your questions and concerns about the Cardinals. We're going to get to all of them here on the Cards Central postgame show. We're really excited to talk about how this doubleheader played out. One moment in this game that I think is important to put a magnifying glass on is Jose Barrero comes up, runners on second and third with one out. You don't go to Mason Wynn. And I know that the fans were ready to take out their torches and pitchforks on that certain decision. But what that tells me is Mason Wynn needed the rest. He must have been physically unable to go for a second game. They're trying to get him ready for this upcoming stretch where you're going to need him in virtually every day against the Reds and Cubs. But it was interesting to see a sacrifice bunt or suicide squeeze attempt in. I don't know if that's a lack of trust in Barrero to put the ball in play or to hit the ball in the air deep enough to get Gorman home. But the execution there, all the blame falls on Gorman. Yes, he got caught wandering at third base, but you got to get that bunt down. If he's up the line, you've got to get that bunt down. So I think the culpability rests with both of those guys.
Yeah, and I understand people are going to criticize Gorman, and he deserves a lot of criticism. I mean, for me, I've been beating the Gorman drum to a point where I apparently am trying to trade better players. That was taken out of context, I swear to God. But then I mean, the first game, Gorman's over 2 with 2 strikeouts, and then today he finally gets a hit. He finally works the walk as well in a big moment, and then he makes a huge mistake on the base path. It's just he can't win for losing with the guy. I'm sure the Cardinals are sitting there tearing their hair out because if he could just put together 2 solid months, it makes them have to make a decision, but it's a good decision to be forced to make. And yeah, that was just a rough day for Nolan Gorman on which I hoped it was going to be a bigger day for him because he starts both games, and that was huge for him. Although neither one of them ended up being at third base, which I thought might be something. Although Nolan Arenado continues to make solid plays defensively, had some big RBIs today. Again, Bernie Miklasz doing great work on STL Sports Central. Pointed out that he's slugging over 500 in the last 2 weeks. So maybe I'm completely wrong about Nolan Arenado. All I know is that I'm disappointed about Nolan Gorman after today, and I might have to finally jump off the bandwagon.
And I think that might be too premature. I think that he's hitting a lot better. He's controlling the strike zone a lot better. He did have an at-bat in game 1 where he struck out on 3 pitches, fastball. Mm-hmm. And that was a bit of a concern against a right-handed pitcher. Now, if you are a Cardinals fan, a couple things that you'd love to see. Alec Burleson, again, continues to heat up. He had an awful at-bat in that 10th inning, swinging at pitches well below the zone in the dirt. But at that point, who knew what the strike zone was with what was going on there in the later innings? That was certainly something that if you are a St. Louis fan, you would have liked to be amended by the home plate umpire in game.
Yeah, that Granillo call in the second game, I had as I usually do, I had the TV going, but I was listening to our good friends over at KMOX, and the 6th ball to Noda that walked him. Oh my God, the reaction from Ricky on that one was absolutely hysterical. It was a ridiculous call on that one, and I couldn't have put it better than he did on 11:20 today, because that was some weird calls. That one at the end of a very long day was highlighted in the tone of the broadcasters, and yeah, it was a weird day with the strike zone today.